Mayuresh Joshi is our next guest on the show. Mayuresh, always a pleasure having you on Closing Bell. So, what do you think of this? Let's talk about the big banking move. I think everyone in the market has been waiting to see this day for many, many weeks and months now. It's happened. But what do you think? Is this, the big catch-up move that's finally beginning, or too early to call that?
Afternoon, Surabhi. So I think the Bank Nifty was clearly stagnating, and Prashant did in the opening part of the show put in the levels for the Bank Nifty itself. But a large part in terms of the stagnation happened also due to because of the RBI circular coming in terms of personal credit card and unsecured loans. And to that extent, the kind of dampening effects that the entire banking system probably witnessed was something to be put on record. But having said that, the kind of numbers, as an example, that Axis Bank probably put forth, or rather a lot of banks within the large cap spaces, ICICI, HDFC, decent set of numbers in my opinion, even IndusInd Bank within the private space, SBI also had a very decent set of numbers as far as the PSU space is concerned. So with the new circular, obviously I think a hard hit in terms of 70 to 80 bips on the CET1 ratio will be there for most banks. But most banks are equipped with a reasonable amount of tier 1 ratios as we speak, which means that the next few quarters, the loan growth should be decent enough. Even for the risk-weighted assets and the provisioning that they probably have done, the expectations in terms of the compression of NIMs and the expectations of rate cuts at some part in the next financial year, that should boost advances growth quite well. And with robust balance sheets as we speak at this point of time, the expansions for ROE should start happening in the second of the next financial year. So I think we remain selective, but positive on banks like Axis Bank within the large cap names, something like a CREDITACCESS Grameen as well within the NBFC space.
By the way, the Tata Tech listing is tomorrow. Mayuresh, any thoughts? I mean, the grey market premium indicates that it's going to be a super listing. And what's the sense? I mean, if it lists at say about 800, 900, would there be what would you do?
After Prashant, I think
that price, I mean, just to quantify that price, it will trade at about what 50, 55 times REMA. And I think compared to what they sold their sort of stock at in the issue. Go on.
Yeah, so I think looking at how IREDA's listing has been and the expectations in terms of market participants for Tata Tech's listing tomorrow itself, yes, I think the listing will be at the higher end of the range. And if that probably happens, the valuation matrix that you're probably looking at also happens to be at the higher end of the range as well. But I think it's all about growth opportunities and the growth forecasts that a lot of people on the street are trying to peg in. The kind of tie-ups that they probably have, the expectations in terms of the R&D module, specifically when it comes to both Tata Motors and a lot of other clients as well, that gives a huge runaway growth in the next few years that happens. And with the kind of margins that they can probably have in this kind of business, premium valuations can very well get justified. So it all seems to be seen where it opens, but the expectations is that it will have a very, very strong opening. I think investors who have probably got that allotment will feel very lucky, and they should probably hold on.
Shriram Finance, which continues to remain very, very steady. There's been a big winner over the last 3 months or so. Mayuresh, any thoughts on NBFCs and anything you like in that space? These two names or others?
Oh, yes, Prashant. And as I mentioned, CREDITACCESS Grameen, I think the numbers were pretty decent in the quarter gone by. GNPAs, net NPAs at 0.89, 0.2, very, very negligible on the net NPA account. Provision coverage has increased quite significantly. The collection efficiencies almost close to 99%. And you've seen a very steady uptake, both in terms of a quarter-on-quarter as well as a year-on-year performance when it comes to advances, along with very, very strong tier 1 ratios. When it probably comes to the unsecured part of the business, it's not that substantial, which will create a dent in terms of the tier 1 ratios itself. And therefore, strong balance sheet growth will continue. The other NBFC that we probably like is Shriram Finance as well. Around 4.5% exposure in terms of the unsecured portfolio as a part of the overall book. And therefore, if you look at the core portfolio itself, the expectations is a very strong double-digit growth that can probably come through. strong NIMs that can continue to get reported in the next few quarters, reflecting in very strong ROAs and ROEs for Shriram Finance as well. So I think CREDITACCESS, Grameen and Shriram Finance is something that we like at MarketSmith.
Okay, all right, Mayuresh, thank you very much for all of those inputs.